Welcome back to all the attendees and welcome on the stage to Roberta Mugellesi Dao, who is our moderator for this session. She's going to introduce you the last session of the day, which is dedicated to space activities as a role in cultural heritage sector and the presentation of our colleague. I leave the floor to Roberta for the moderation of this final panel.
Thank you, Donatella, and good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this third panel of the workshop on space for cultural heritage. I'm glad to moderate this panel where the focus is on how space technology and data can be used for the monitoring management of cultural heritage protection and fruition. The panel consists of representatives from EURISI and the European Space Agency, and we are honored at the end of the intervention to have again our Director General, Professor Jan Werner, which will conclude the overall workshop with some final concluding remarks. Now, without any further, I will proceed with introducing the first panelist, Mrs. Grazia Fiore. Grazia graduated in political science from Luis University of Rome, and she has over 10 years of experience in research, public affairs, and communication. At EURISI, she has implemented an extensive analysis on use of satellite application by European public administration before launching the Space for Cities initiative. She also facilitated good practice exchanges among confirmed and potential institutional users of satellite-based services through workshops and conferences. Since 2018, Grazia is in charge of implementing EURISI Space for Culture initiative, aimed at raising awareness on the use of satellite application to support the management, safeguard, and valorization of culture and of creative experiences. She was previously research officer within the UN Rethink project, aimed at fostering university social responsibility in the Latin America region, and project manager at the European Public Law Organization, managing EU-funded project in the fields of the rule of law and human rights. EURISI has issued a number of good practice and book. One of these is a remarkable, interesting handbook on cultural heritage user experience, which highlight the contribution of satellite application for a better management of historical cities, monitoring cultural heritage, and we can say enable the generation of a new way to experience the culture. So we would like then invite Grazia to provide us the feedback from the experience and to tell us a bit more about the handbook on cultural heritage user experience. So Grazia, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Roberta. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for the organizing committee for inviting us and for the excellent presentations included in the workshop. So to start with, for those who are unfamiliar with EURISI, I will briefly introduce the association. So EURISI is a non-profit association of space agencies founded in 1989. The European Space Agency is the strongest supporter of the association, and we are actually based in the ESA headquarters in Paris. Our mandate is to communicate on operational uses of satellite-based services that can be used by civil society. We try to understand user needs, challenges, and motivations. of the final users, and then give feedback to our members and to decision makers on the challenges encountered by final users, and we propose ways to overcome such challenges. So we work around some thematic areas. These are the thematic areas we are currently focusing on. And since 2018, we've been working on the topic of space for culture. We chose this topic in 2018 since it was the European Year of Cultural Heritage. And our two main achievements in this sense have been the organization of a 2-day conference in Matera, which has been one of the European Capital of Cultures in 2019, and as Roberta mentioned, the compilation of an handbook of success stories of uses of satellite applications for the cultural sector. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to tell you about some examples that we have recorded and systematized around 3 sub-themes: the management of historical cities, the safeguard, promotion, and valorization of cultural heritage, and the creation of innovative artistic and cultural experiences. So we know, so let's start from managing of historical cities. We could see throughout our experience that Earth observation has a real value added to maintain historical cities and historical buildings and sites. In particular, there are a number of operational cases in which EO is used to assess subsidence, pollution, and erosion around such sites, and to better support urban planning. The first example I'm going to show you is the example of Amsterdam. As you know, Amsterdam has many bridges, and these are constantly threatened by heavy traffic and frequent renovation works. Last year, we witnessed a dramatic example in which one of the cases actually frowned because of soil subsidence. And since a few years, the Department of Engineering is experimenting with satellite imagery to actually try to monitor the phase of soil subsidence and then prioritize maintenance works of bridges and of the quays and buildings nearby the bridges. So to do so, they are collaborating with SkyGeo, which is a local company, and they use satellite-based data to measure and map the formation of the infrastructure and the buildings. And so far, the INSAR data used has allowed to map 100 bridges and nearby buildings along the quay walls, and the city will use this information to prioritize the maintenance works. Currently, the city is looking for ways to acquire better resolution imagery at a lower cost and to try to map all the bridges of the city. So this was for Earth observation, one example. We also know that satellite navigation is massively used in the main European and not only European historical cities to improve waste management, to support rescue and civil protection operations. And it's also embedded in a number of tourist and transport services. And in particular, thanks to mobile apps embedding satellite navigation, it is now possible to offer to both residents and tourists numerous ways to experience the cities in different ways, so to know about the places and events of cities. So I'll show you an example of how SatNav is used in a European historical city, in the city of Bologna in Italy. So Bologna is a medium-sized city, and it's not big enough to have a subway system. In this city, traffic congestion is heavily felt, and this can affect the movements around and across town. So since 2005 already, the Department of Mobility has equipped all city buses with a satellite-based positioning system that gives a green light priority to the public buses. So thanks to this system of sensors placed on the ground and thanks to the GPS, the sat-nav devices on the buses, now there is a centralized traffic light system that adapts in real time to traffic flows. This means that the green bus priority system can ensure the punctuality of buses' arrival times and smoothen city traffic while reducing commuters' travel time. And this is a real success story from the city of Bologna. Going on our second subtopic, the safeguard, promotion, and valorization of cultural heritage. We know and we heard from presentations in the morning, which are the recognized benefits of using satellite imagery for cultural heritage. In particular, satellite imagery allows to monitor large areas in a relatively small amount of time. It allows us to study relations among natural and man-made phenomena on the field. It allows us to identify new sites, and we see here two pictures of the Nazca lines in Peru and of a Viking burial site in central Norway. It allows us to detect changes and hence it allows us to monitor cultural heritage also in remote locations and enable local managers to plan land management, so to know where there are conflicting uses of the territory when cultural heritage is present on the site. And I will now give you a couple of examples of how satellite imagery provides a distinctive added value in situations of conflict. So we've been witnessing, all of us, to the damages performed by the self-proclaimed Islamic State on the Palmyra site. And in periods of war, it is particularly difficult to know what is the status of these sites because it is impossible to effectuate site inspections, and administrations in charge of monitoring and managing such heritage do not function properly in their full mandate. So between 2015 and 2017, the Islamic State destroyed the biggest part of the Palmyra old town, and to assess the damages suffered by the site, the German Archaeological Institute, DAI, asked the German Aerospace Center, DLR, to analyze a series of satellite images of the site over a one-year period. Based on the analysis of such images, the DLR was able to put together a chronological map of the destructions on the site, and this map will be used by the DAA to decide and plan on recovery measures once the site was freed from the occupation. There are other entities such as the European Satellite Center, the SATCEN, who have also been charged to perform similar studies on Iraqi cities, and they were able, thanks to a series of satellite imagery, to classify the damages suffered by the Iraqi cities according to who had performed the damage. So this information is particularly useful in times of war and crisis. So I'll go on to another example that has been already mentioned by Arianna Travaglia. So the example of historic environment Scotland, using satellite data to protect heritage from climate change. So we know that a big part of the historical heritage of Scotland is on the coast, and that this coast is heavily threatened by coastal erosion due to climate change. So what happened is that there is the first use of satellite navigation that we recorded in Scotland was made by an initiative that is called Coastal Archaeology and the Problem of Erosion. So they were able to launch a project that is called SHARP, Scotland Coastal Heritage at Risk Project. So what they did is that they deployed over 1,000 volunteers with a mobile app embedding satellite navigation to map and record all satellite images, to update 35% of the map of the Scottish cultural heritage on the coastline. And in 2015, the Historic Environment Scotland launched a pan-government initiative called Dynamic Coast, aimed at building an evidence base of coastal change across all of Scotland's erodible shore. This was made by analyzing Sentinel-2 images, the full catalog of images, and comparing it with historical maps, modern and legacy aerial images, and surveys of the vegetation edge to map, measure, and model coastal changes. So these web maps are made available to all interested parties for free, and they summarize and report about coastal heritage of Scotland and about the risks to which they are exposed. This exercise is only the first step to then intervene on the coast and think about ways to actually protect cultural heritage from an ineluctable coastal erosion that is going to take place anyway. And we now go to our third and last sub-team, creative, innovative, artistic, and cultural experiences, because as we could see also from previous presentations, satellite applications have also a role to play in this sector. So first of all, I want to present you a virtual reality tool that has been developed within a very big project funded by the Italian Ministry of Economic Development and implemented by three giants of the telecommunication sector, TIM, Fastweb, and Huawei, to deploy uses of 5G in Italy. So Matera is an ancient city that is known for the historical sassi, which are ancient cave houses which date back to the Paleolithic period. Most of these Paleolithic churches are impossible to visit because they are placed in areas that are of difficult access. And thanks to 5G, a virtual reality tour of the Matera Ruprestrian churches is now available. So first of all, the churches were reconstructed using orthophotos and videos shot on the ground, but all this information was also coupled with historical reconstructions of how the churches looked back in time. So thanks to 5G, it is possible to access the virtual reality tour from everywhere, and people placed in different locations can together and at the same time follow a guide and visit the churches from everywhere. And in addition to visualizing what is actually and currently there, they can also see and explore the reconstructions of the churches as they were when they were first built. So another initiative that we recorded is a project by a Berlin-based artist that is called Hans Ack. This initiative is called Reprojected Destruction, and in this case, the artist was able to access a satellite imagery recording all the destructions which happened in Aleppo, thanks to a satellite imagery that was recorded by UNOSAT and made available to the press by UNITAR. So that's how he became aware of the existence of these maps. And what he did was that he reprojected the destructions of Aleppo into European cities, such as London and Berlin, with the objective of sensitize Western people on the destruction suffered by the citizens of Aleppo. This is quite an interesting project from our point of view, because it underlines how maps can be powerful communication tools and can also carry a political message. Indeed, I mean, the artist himself states that what is important for him is to use the technology to sensitize people on issues that he believes are relevant to understand today's world. These are just two of the experiences that we crossed in our investigations. We saw many examples of use of GPS to trace, to draw on the ground, for example, and also uses of satellite imagery within movies to expand the scenario of the movie and make impossible things happen, like having an airplane landing on the port of Marseille. So we will go on classifying and recording these experiences. And for the time being, I mean, the messages that we think should be put forward are that both culture and creativity carry a value that is not only social, but also economic, and that to capitalize on such heritage and safeguard it, regions and cities need data, they need skills, and they need integrated policies. What we could also appreciate, of course, is that in the field of cultural heritage, the use of Earth observation and its added value is now confirmed, and that scientists are constantly looking and working to have better uses, to have better resolutions, and to integrate more and more these tools into the available GIS of entities responsible for the safeguard of cultural heritage. And indeed, researcher universities and space agencies play a major role in this field, and they are very often the entities that are entrusted to produce information on cultural heritage. So these are to be considered as end users for this sector. As opportunities that we've got in front of us, there are, of course, the Copernicus and Galileo programs funded by the European Commission, and that should offer opportunities for public and private entities operating in these sectors to develop even better applications than the ones that currently exist. And we hope that with the deployment of 5G, we will be also able to boost the potential of SATCOM to create jobs and new ways to experience culture. In terms of challenges that we are still facing, there is the fact that we know that satellite imagery needs to be elaborated, read, and processed to offer information that can be exploitable. And the local managers now don't always have the processing tools to automatically integrate the satellite data into their existing databases. In some cases, there are conflicting GIS that are made available at the national, regional, and local levels, and that cannot be harmonized and integrated. In some cases, the universities own GIS that are far more advanced than the GIS that are available to local managers. One recommendation that we feel as a RISI as doing to the space community, but I mean to politicians in general, is to integrate satellite data into thematic portals that are normally visited and consulted by cultural managers, and not to make them only available on portals that are consulted by space experts. And to try to avoid replications of GISs, but try to actually combine different, not work in silos when talking about culture, but try to combine different experiences and different departments and different governance levels into, try to bring them at the same table to actually build tools that can be used by everyone in different ways with different layers. There is still the need to make awareness raising and training towards local authority on the existence of such tools and on how to use them. As a last recommendation, I mean, we want the space community and governments to know that the pool of potential users in the field of sector is much larger than the actors that have been considered so far. And that there is a number of professionals who are not trained in remote sensing techniques and GIS, who can make use of this data and actually think about uses that we haven't thought yet about. So we hope that, I mean, the work will continue by fostering multidisciplinarity and cooperation, and we welcome initiatives like this workshop that actually go in this direction. And thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Grazia. Thank you. Thank you for the very inspiring presentation, for having highlighted opportunity that the added value space, so the opportunity from the Earth observation, from the terrestrial, 5G convergence, SATCOM, 5G, PNT. So I think you gave a lot of food for thought to the participant. Now, I would like now to move to the second panelist from the European Space Agency. She is Mrs. Yolanda Patruna. So Yolanda achieved her MSc degree in aerophotography and ancient topography at the University of Roma La Sapienza in the Faculty of Archaeology on Earth observation data exploitation for cultural heritage, and a PhD on the use of a full polarimetric SAR multi-frequency data for monitoring desert environment and UNESCO site in danger. She had been working as an Earth observation engineer for satellite projects focused on Earth observation data exploitation, image quality, performance assessment, calibration validation activity in the ACA technology at the Telespazio. From August 2017, Yolanda is working as a Earth observation engineering for REA Group, as a Earth observation data exploitation application engineer at the European Space Agency in Esrin, in Italy, and provide engineer support for the thematic exploitation platform and supporting a variety of project and application as a SAR expert. So within this talk, we would like to invite Yolanda to provide us with, let's say, an overview on an added value type of methodology, technology, and data which can be used, adding a value for cultural asset protection, valorization, fruition, and let's say through the use of space technology and data. Please, Yolanda.
Thank you, Roberta, for the introduction. Good afternoon, everybody. I will share my screen. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Okay, I will do this. So good afternoon, everybody. This presentation will focus on the ESA perspective on trends, challenges, and future prospects in cultural heritage. We'll start with a brief overview of major application up to date. So we have listened even before, we have heard before with previous presentations how the majority of applications deal with the discovery and mapping of archaeological sites and even further exploration of existing sites where it's not possible to study directly, to inspect directly on site what's going on in the archaeological complexes. And another example is the one of the data preservation. In 2016, the European Space Agency and the Vatican Apostolic Library signed an agreement for the preservation in the long term of archived information thanks to the use of the spatial technology. Another kind of application is the one dealing with security for cultural heritage, which is a very important concept we need to recall. In particular, we have the anthropogenic impact or the natural impact which are affecting the cultural heritage in case of, for instance, intentional site destruction or indirect site destruction as a side effect of some human crisis like the war, for instance, and also the poaching with an archaeological artifacts, which are, thanks to the looting activities, they are often sold to the black market, and we have, it is an increasing phenomenon in the latest decades. Also, on the natural aspect, we need to mention the natural disasters as landslides and earthquakes or extreme meteorological events. So all the climate change factors which are impacting the cultural heritage. And in particular, we have to say that here we have the help of what we normally do in case of disaster risk management. We can apply the same, let's say, strategy, thinking to the risk mapping, the early warning, of course, the monitoring of the geohazard, and also the damage assessment and the damage mitigation. What about the new applications or, well, old applications and new techniques that could be applied in the cultural heritage sector? So normally we know that applications are mostly site-based, so we can consider them like limited. And if we think to the survey activities or to the looting or the feature detection, and in general to the need of automation of some process in cultural heritage sector, we have to think to the new emerging techniques which are now used in these very last years, and we will be used more and more in the next future, like the artificial intelligence techniques, so machine learning or deep learning, computer vision, the augmented reality and the virtual reality, but as well as the crowdsourcing and the citizen science. We have seen many projects coming, rising in the last years, using this kind of techniques, which seems to be really promising for the cultural heritage fruition. One of the most important problems is the, let's say, the difficulty of the inter-project comparison and the data aggregation. So normally, the data sets are typically tailored to the individual projects, and this is actually something that could need to be addressed. What can do Earth observation data in this respect? We have to say that it is a fact that now the Copernicus and the contributing missions are really contributing to the management of cultural heritage, not only during emergencies, as we were saying before, but also for the daily routine practices like the mapping or the monitoring and preservation of sites. We have heard in the previous panels presentations about the ESA sensors, and also the importance of the high frequency of observations and the high and very high resolution imagery, which is still a need in the cultural heritage sector, because we know that the spatial resolution is a key element for the monitoring of the archaeological features. If we have a near time, or let's say quasi-near real-time observation, of course, we will privilege preventive actions in time more than reactive ones. Here you can see also the example of an optical satellite, which is a SkySat. And just as curiosity, you can see how the pandemic impacted on the circulation, not only the traffic around the Colosseum in Rome, but also, of course, the tourism influence on the site. So what we can be done toward the future? There is the digital Twinning Earth initiative of ESA, which has the scope to create a model of the Earth where we can visualize, monitor, and analyze the natural and the human activities and the impact and the interactions existing between natural and human activities. So in this context, we have to say that the cultural heritage could be a new element to be included in this initiative with the objective to rethink to the tourism and to the cultural heritage in general, and in particular attracting new audiences, for instance, or involve community participation and with a constant eye to innovation and innovative techniques. Thanks to this, we could really support the predictive capability for sustainable tourism policies and actions. And also, it is very useful to engage, and this maybe answers partially to what also Grazia was mentioning before, to engage these interdisciplinary communities to provide this missing layer between experts, because we know very well that remote sensing experts and cultural heritage managers are not, let's say, always on the same line. They need to communicate and to collaborate. And this could be a real chance to work together with cultural heritage managers, artificial intelligence experts, social scientists, and civil protection, and other actors that could have come from impact sectors. This is a very impressive example on how the pandemic has affected cultural heritage. You can see here some of the news of the waterways of Venice that were empty during the coronavirus lockdown in Italy, and this news went around all over the world. And what is very impressive, if you look to this image, is how it changed actually the tourism and the circulation around the site of Venice, which together with other cultural heritage sites has really suffered from the pandemic. And we know that according to the UNESCO World Heritage Committee, the 71% of the World Heritage sites has been closed in the meantime, and the 18% were only partially open. This led to an increasing of looting activities and, of course, interruption of some activities like the conservation, but also the archaeological exploration works, and, of course, a decline in cultural funding. That's why we need to rethink business models for cultural heritage for the future. This is not an easy challenge. Also, talking about stakeholders, we know that up to date, normally applications from Earth observation and in cultural heritage have been dealing with research institutes or institutional organizations, but we know that recently many other actors have been came to the scene, like archaeological parks, for instance, or company providing virtual tours, environment or governmental authorities and organizations, and many others. So some important recommendations are starting from this need to rethink the models for cultural heritage, and in particular, we need to address 3 points which are really important, like the communication, to strengthen the communication and the synergies between EU experts and cultural heritage management, provide user-ready products where it is not possible to increase the capacity building and provide trainings to local managers or to all these, let's say, actors who are not really experts in technology. There is this need to provide the user-ready products that can be used directly to by the end user, who are the site managers or the archaeological parks, for instance. And then supporting the generation of processes and practices for technology and cultural heritage, which today are still partially missing. Again, the chance to consider the cultural heritage as one of the aspects that could be studied and analyzed into the Digital Twin Earth initiative context is really promising, because it could increase the Earth observation uptake in new applications in cultural heritage, could support the predictive decision for the sustainable tourism policies and actions, and also, as said, could provide this missing layer, closing this gap between experts coming from various backgrounds. So it is really important, the interdisciplinary communities engagement. The stakeholder awareness is something that needs to be increased, not only not only using, let's say, not only thanks to trainings and share the usage of available Copernicus products together with the contributing missions, and to improve the knowledge about the offering and potential of this Earth observation data, but also trying to understand the importance of the integration. Integration should be one key concept together with innovation for the near future of the cultural heritage in the cultural heritage sector, since we always have been talking about Earth observation satellite data, in situ measurements, drones data, GPR prospections, for instance, in the archaeological domain. But now we are facing with some innovative ways to study and to think and to detect and to operate in the cultural heritage sector, as the artificial intelligence, the open data and crowdsourcing, the VR and AR experiences, and citizen science, let's say, techniques. So how we can integrate all this data? We have to say that the European Space Agency has a lot of initiatives where that can be used to this scope. In particular, we can mention the platform services. So these are supports projects that want to leverage the data into the cloud. And thanks to the sponsorship initiatives, it could be very easy to access not only the European platforms, but also the Earth observation data. And two examples of these, two big examples of this could be the Eurodata Cube and the network of resources. And also, I want to mention also the possibility to participate to the permanently open calls of ESA, where ESA welcome really users and stakeholders to present innovative projects that could combine the power of future technology to preserve the fruition of cultural heritage. And with this, I will thank you for your attention and for listening.
Thank you, Yolanda. Thank you again for this interesting presentation, and really to have shared with us, let's say, the added value, the power of the Earth observation, also when complemented by the other technology. This, I think it's very important. So you mentioned some of the artificial machine learning as effective tool, for example, to extract pattern of data, to analyze a big amount of data, but also immersive technology, and also the use of digital twin, not only, let's say, as a technology to recreate a historical building, but also to support, let's say, site manager in the preventive conservation of the asset. Of course, integrated with a lot of data, and you mentioned, for example, drone and in-situ sensor. So thank you again, Yolanda, for this very interesting presentation. And now we move to the third panelist from the European Space Agency, is Mrs. Piera Di Vito. Piera Di Vito works in the ESA Space Solution team in the Telecommunication Integrated Application Directorate. She works to support industry to develop applications in several domains, which present a strong potential to become commercial in the short and medium term, and based on the utilization of at least one space asset. The focus is of Piera is on maritime aviation domain. She has been working previously at Inmarsat in UK, London, IDS in Rome, and she obtained her MSc in telecommunication from the University of Rome, Tor Vergata. So as we know, and I know very well being in the same group, that there are, let's say, a lot of different activity ongoing in the domain of the cultural heritage. And let's say, as supported by our team to, as I said, to become from operational to commercial. And with this, we would like to invite Piera to give us, to show us some concrete example of the successful application of how space technology can support the cultural heritage protection and fruition. So, Piera, please, the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot, Roberta, and thank you, everyone. So I prepared a few slides. As Roberta mentioned, we are colleagues working in business application and space solution department. I would like to present a brief introduction about our program. Just let me share the screen. So, what we do at business application and space solution. As you may know, the space value chain is composed by the upstream that you can see here on the screen on the left, and then the downstream. So also companies, the downstream are the companies which rely on the utilization of space assets, while upstream are launchers, manufacturers. We look at the downstream, so on the right side. What we do is that we provide funding. We provide technical expertise and funding to help companies to develop sustainable services in several domains, with the aim to develop and to demonstrate sustainable downstream services which can rely on the utilization of at least one space asset, like GNSS, SATCOM, or Earth observation. So we really look at the development and demonstration of promising services, which we do hope that can become commercial by the end of the project. For us, the services shall be visible, shall be business viable, and shall be customer user driven. We in space applications, we support the development of services, as I said, user driven, market driven in several domains, and today I will mention the one related to cultural heritage, of course. We do encourage the integration of space technologies with terrestrial technologies. So in addition to the exploitation of space assets, we do encourage the utilization of 5G, IoT, blockchain, artificial intelligence, big data, VR, AR, and I will mention some of them. We work on cooperations with several institutional and also private partners. And this is, for us, is important in order to support the industry. We want to support, to be in touch with the real needs. So all the projects we support shall be driven by real user and customer needs. So, for example, we established cooperation with municipalities like Roma, Torino, L'Aquila in Italy, but also Groningen in the Netherlands, to understand what space could do for cities, for citizens. And then in particular, we found what we could do for cultural heritage. Now we have recently, just a couple of days ago, established a cooperation with the Italian Minister of Cultural Heritage, about which we are quite proud and which we are sure will generate new cooperations in this domain. I wanted to mention one of the projects we supported, which we consider a successful one. And this is a demonstration project. So it's a project which developed and demonstrated the service. And it's called Artec, focusing on the cultural heritage preservation and fruition. I provided a very high level system architecture, I would say more a picture. So what it used is the GNSS to provide the UAV flight control. And the UAV will provide on-site monitoring, and then the satellite communication provide a link from the on-site with the operator's site. This project, which aimed to provide a systematic high-frequency monitoring of cultural heritage sites, supporting the preventive cultural property, has been led by Next Application and Innovative Solution. So it's called NICE. As part of the partners, there was also Istituto Superiore per la Conservazione e per il Restauro, ENAV, Istituto per le Metodologie per l'Analisi Ambientale, and it was quite a successful one because indeed they demonstrated the utilization of UAV to provide on-site monitoring of cultural heritage, about which we were quite proud solution. In 2019, we have signed 3 memorandum of intent with Roma, Torino, L'Aquila, and the Abruzzo region, as I mentioned before. And the scope of the MOIs is to pursue space-based activities, making use of 5G of communication networks. So the specific cooperation aimed to use space assets together with 5G to enable the development of downstream services in 4 thematic areas: law enforcement and emergency response, cultural heritage, fruition and preservation, structural monitoring, intelligent transport. I would like to highlight that these 4 thematic areas have been agreed after the discussion with the municipalities, so they arose from real needs. And in particular, for the cultural heritage one, we worked with the Superintendenza Capitolina and then with all the councillors of each municipalities related to cultural heritage to understand which were each municipality's needs. And so, for example, we have kicked off 6 activities which are now successfully running, and I want to mention some of them. Space to Tree demonstration project, whose scope is to design, implement, and demonstrate a dedicated alert system for the monitoring of public green, in particular those located inside areas of relevant historical and cultural sites. In particular, this project, whose prime is Digimat, it's an Italian company, is working in close cooperation with the Torino municipalities, and they will rely on IoT sensors together with Earth observation data to see how indeed they can provide the monitoring of public green, especially in particular historical sites which have been identified by the Torino municipalities. Another demonstration project is a VADUS demo project, which focuses on the development and demonstration of a new set of applications looking at the enrichment of tourist visit experience. And in this case, they're using augmented reality and virtual reality technologies together with 5G networks and satellite services. So here it's more a fruition of cultural heritage. And VADUS is working in close cooperation with the Superintendenza Capitolina, and they're now working on the consolidation of their requirements, because all our project, in particular this demonstration project, will in the end develop pre-operational services, which will be real, and I do hope that will become commercial soon, so you can really benefit from them and use them. And then another project is the Primarium demo project, whose prime is Aegeus, and they aim to implement a cultural heritage monitoring and management system in support of ordinary and extraordinary management activities. And also here they're working with the Superintendenza Capitolina from Rome, and they're using IoT sensor combined with UAV and with Earth observation to monitor historical buildings, not only in terms of the infrastructures, but also looking at how they are treated by the tourists, for example. Other example projects we are currently running is the AMO demo project, whose prime is NICE, and they are developing sustainable services for the safeguard and fruition of cultural heritage in rich and dense historical city centers, in particular those which are affected by a significant anthropic pressure, especially represented by the huge visitors flow, and have the Superintendenza Capitolina as main user. Then there is the Inventa feasibility study, who is working with the Torino municipality. And in this case, we don't have a demonstration project. This is a feasibility study, so they're investigating the technical and commercial feasibility of a cultural heritage solution service, such as sustainable tourism, where Earth observation, the and GNSS are integrated, made available virtual guides in augmented reality through the Inventa app, giving real-time information on tourist flows. And last but not least, the extension demo project, and he's working in close cooperation with L'Aquila municipality, and they're looking at the development and demonstration of an end-to-end cultural heritage fruition service, where the users may acquire detailed information on surrounding places, monuments, churches, artworks, thanks to augmented reality and through the accurate localization. So I thank you all. And should you have any question, please don't hesitate to contact me, to contact us. And I hope that for the next event, we can demonstrate something, some service already operational. And I'm sure you will hear more from us, because as I said, we just signed an agreement with Italian Minister of Cultural Heritage, with whom we are really eager to work and to launch new initiatives. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Piera. Thank you, Piera, for this interesting presentation, for having presented what are these very advanced projects to services to come to support, let's say, the preventive conservation of cultural heritage. So this is very, very interesting. I hope it also inspires the participants. And now with Piera, the third panelist, we have now concluded the part of the panel, and I would like now to open the Q&A session. So starting from the audience, we have a question coming for Yolanda from the audience. And the question is that if these courses are available for any city that may have interest. In your presentation, you mentioned courses for the cities. And the question is if this can be available for any city that may have interest to participate in order to improve the cultural heritage site, and also how can, let's say, become in contact with you.
Yes. Yes, so actually the courses, the specific courses and training courses are in the plan. This is an idea that I think will come in the future. There are some chances that could be realized in the future. They are not yet available at this moment, but I can say that these courses will not really be, let's say, concentrated on the cities, on a specific city, but they will be concentrated on the understanding of the techniques and how to use and to exploit the information that we have coming from the technologies and from satellite data and all the other source data that we can use in the cultural heritage monitoring. So for sure, let's say that the right channel to follow to be updated on this is the website of ESA, where of course once these courses will be available, they will be there. I guess yes, they will be free, but still this is something that is in, let's say, is in a preparation phase. So as soon as they will be available and online, they can be found directly on the website of ESA.
Thanks, Yolanda, for the answer. Just to complete, will be these courses given so free for participation?
Yes, I was just I was reading in the meantime, and I think I said that normally, yes, they could be in the form of maybe intensive courses. There will be, of course, an application, so a request for the training, for attending the training, and normally all the ESA trainings are then go through this evaluation phase for the attendees, and then of course the participation is free.
Okay, thank you.
You're
so,
welcome.
Meanwhile, just receiving some question from the audience, of course, just to reply that the presentation will be anyway made available on the website of the Downstream Gateway after the workshop. There is another question, which I think again address Yolanda, and this concern is related to ESA Science for Society recent open call. So the call is now recently requested proposal for application on the cultural heritage. It's open, and the question is if the application have to fall under one of the call activity line, like AI for or regional initiative, or can cultural heritage itself considered a separate activity line? I don't know if this was clear.
Yeah. Yes. Of course, let's say that there are some different elements under which these new projects can be submitted. It depends. Actually, there are more than one element could be the right one. It depends on the, let's say, how the project, what project will be focused on. For instance, if there is a project on cultural heritage of the Mediterranean area, the regional initiatives could be the right one. Or if you are analyzing an artificial intelligence technique and applying this technique to the cultural heritage management, the artificial intelligence for you will be the right one. So it is not so, let's say, I would not consider these elements as like there is only one for cultural heritage. Cultural heritage is a really wide sector where you can address your research or your project in various ways. So once you focus, once you identify the scope or the technique you want to use, then I think that you have the possibility to choose among 2 or 3 of these elements of the future EO. So, yes.
Yeah, thank you, Yolanda.
You're welcome.
So now that, meanwhile, that we are just having some other question from the audience, maybe it would be good to give the opportunity to the other participant for a final remark. So we just, for all of you, we have talked and we have understood the added value of space technology data in this domain. One important factor is the stakeholder awareness, as we have heard from Yolanda presentation. So how would you increase what, let's say, action or measure, what would come to your mind in the, let's say, in the sector space cultural heritage? For example, just to give you an opinion, from my side, we have talked a lot about, let's say, outdoor cultural heritage. And I think there is something that, again, with this innovative technology can be done also, let's say, in the museum. So we can do a lot also in that part. But I leave the floor for you to, let's say, for all of you, to Grazia, Yolanda, Piera and Yolanda to give some final remark on stakeholder awareness and engagement. Grazia or Piera, do you want to start?
Yeah, I think that the museums have a big role to play, and they can also be ambassadors of these new applications and make them become mainstream. So especially now that, I mean, museums are closed in most countries and regions, virtual reality tools, and I mean, let's remember that also for virtual reality reconstructions, GNSS is used to calculate the distance between the user and the objects. So I mean, these tools, this gamification of culture can actually become more and more popular in the future. And I think that museums have a big role to play, and they should be massively involved.
Yeah, thanks, grazie. Exactly. Also, exactly using immersive reality and digital twin, I think there is a lot that can be done. Piera, do you have also something to add? We have already talked a lot about different things, but I know, that for us, stakeholder engagement is, let's say, a key important to start.
As I mentioned, for in particular business applications, all the services we support shall be market-driven, and so have onboarded the stakeholders who can provide the reviews and needs and requirements. For us, is a mandatory thing. And I think, at least for the case of the projects I mentioned, having the feedback from municipalities, and in particular from the people in the municipalities related to the cultural heritage domain, played an incredible role, not only because they allowed the projects to access to some areas and sites which otherwise were not accessible, but also because they really gave the opportunity to create a bridge between the engineering part, so the team capable to provide technical solutions, and the cultural heritage domain, because there were several discussions and roundtable table between archaeologists and tourist guides and representative of the Ministry of Cultural Heritage and engineers. And so there were two different languages which found the way to communicate together. And now we are seeing the results in 6 activities running on this. So I think that the action to try to put together 2 different words is super interesting, and it can also be successful.
Thank you, Piera. Thank you. And I think there is this, let's say, last maybe question from the audience to Yolanda. The question is if there is a plan of a potential common platform where, let's say, all the activity on cultural heritage are listed. Maybe it's all on all of you. So is there a platform where one can find all these applications? As far as I know, this is not yet, but maybe I would say it's a good idea to have in mind.
Yes, exactly. It's not yet available a platform, or a dedicated platform from cultural heritage techniques and researches and projects, but for sure it could be a very useful instrument. Also because, given my experience in the platforms domain, I have to say that really in the platform you have the presence of many let's say contributors, not only in terms of algorithms and softwares and let's say processing chains for data, but also users coming from so different institutions and organizations, and the platform is the best, let's say, place where users can share, everybody can share something. And this is the concept also at the basis of the 2 initiatives that I mentioned at the end of the presentation, where everybody could really submit a project for the network of resources, or using the Eurodata Cube, or we have also an example of, for instance, one of the platform, one of the thematic exploitation platform of ESA was really dedicated for the geohazard monitoring. Actually has been used recently by some researchers as using the same processing chains for satellite data, but for the monitoring of cultural heritage sites. So this means that really the platforms could be an important instrument for in this respect. But not yet. We don't have yet one for cultural heritage.
But I think it will come in the future.
Yes.
So with this, I would like really to thank you. I hope that all this information that has been shared has been found useful to all of the users, of all the audience. And now I would like to give the floor to our Director General, Professor Johan Werner, for final concluding remark and say or Donatella. Thank you.
Donatella, you first.
So it was an intense day. Thank you really very much to all the panelists, to the attendees, because there was an intense interaction with the panelists, to the moderators, and of course to all those who have supported the organization, because it was a hard work. And I think that, Jan, you have followed very attentively all the session. I leave the floor to you because I know that you have some consideration to share with us. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Donatella. Thank you very much to all panelists. Thank you very much to all who listened. So I must say this is a very special moment for me because it is very close to my leaving of the agency. It will be just another 2 days. And I must say I'm very happy that Donatella and myself, that we succeeded in creating this downstream gateway. It looks always so simple afterwards when it's existing, then everybody says, okay, it could be better, it could be better, it could be better. But we started from scratch. There was nothing. So I just asked Donatella at a certain point in time, Donatella, I believe we have to do something for the downstream. And she said, yes, we have to. And that was the beginning of the downstream gateway. We got some nasty comments at the beginning, was not that easy. But I believe at least today's webinar, but also the other ones, show that there is really a necessity to have this organization, to have the downstream gateway. Still, my dream is that the downstream gateway will have a bigger perimeter, not only ESA, but also on the EU level. But this is something we have to see. You have to see, Donatella, because I'm leaving. But you can always say that it's in the Space Council resolution and Space Council conclusions that the downstream gateway should have a bigger perimeter. So when I heard most of the contributions, not all, I have to apologize because I had to go in between to another meeting. But the advantage of these virtual meetings is that you can come back easily, and therefore I'm happy that I'm here. So now what I heard, and it should not be, I don't want to say, yes, I was right, but I believe what is really for me important, this message of this one slide I show frequently, which has the aspect of discovery, monitoring, raising awareness, and mitigation. You again today showed that this is a right logic. So you showed also examples where through space one can discover even cultural heritage. And then through monitoring, looking to what is happening, either because of environmental conditions or because of human interaction with the heritage as such. To raise awareness, it's excellent, especially for cultural heritage, to really raise awareness for people to take care of cultural heritage. And then the last one, which I call mitigation, but today I learned one should maybe be better safe, or say also safeguarding and preservation. This is something where space can help a lot. The only thing where I had, I wasn't sure whether I should intervene, but the question of heritage on other bodies like the moon and maybe Mars. This is an important point, and I think that we should together look into what is really their heritage for the future, and we should not limit ourselves to the tiny globe which we call Earth. So the moon, by the way, is part of the Earth. So you could always say the moon is part of the Earth because it was for sure developed through an impact of another body with the Earth. So the moon for me is simple. You can still call it part of the Earth. Mars is more difficult, but there is also something which is already really spectacular and which will remain there for many years, because it is there are not so many humans right now. So again, thank you very much to all of you. For me, it's also some tears in my eyes, because for me it's a very last downstream gateway. Maybe I have the opportunity that Donatella invites me as a panelist for the one or the other webinar she is organizing in the future. And Donatella, you did an excellent job, and thank you to all of you, and stay healthy in these difficult times. Goodbye.
Thank you very much, Jan. Thank you to all of you.
Okay, goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
So the session can be considered closed, and we will welcome you to a next event that will be published on our website. Thank you very much.